The sea roared and tore at the cliffs, foam burning like fire. From the black waves she rose, Aphrodite, a goddess of fear and desire, her beauty sharp as a blade. Aphrodite emerged from the spray with skin that gleamed like polished marble, hair flowing like sunlight, and eyes that warned men they were doomed before they even looked too long. She was born of blood, of violence from the severed flesh of Uranus, yet she appeared as beauty itself, proof that horror can birth allure. She came without cradle, without lullabies, without mother or father, only salt and storm shaping her body. She stepped ashore barefoot, flawless, untamed, and she knew the world was hers before the world even realized it. The gods turned their heads. Some stared in awe, some with hunger, some in quiet fear. Even Zeus, the king of thunder, shifted in his throne, uneasy because beauty like this was more dangerous than any lightning bolt. Aphrodite smiled, a curve of lips that said she already understood her power. They clothed her in shimmering robes, placed a golden crown on her head, and named her the goddess of love. But love was a softened word, a mask to hide what she truly ruled. Behind that mask was command, power, and control, the kind that bent hearts and broke wills. She did not offer love as a gift. She wielded it as a weapon, sharp and invisible. Her real dominion was lust, desire, obsession, the chains that made strong men weak. Where she walked, hearts cracked like glass, kings stumbled over their own tongues, heroes abandoned reason, and even gods lost composure. Hera smoldered with jealousy, Athena clenched her fists, and still none could match her. Not in face, not in charm, not in the art of bending others into fools. Soon the gods themselves clashed over her hand, voices raised, eyes burning, fists ready to break bones. Olympus nearly became a battlefield. Zeus ended it with a cruel joke, laughter that cut deeper than any blade. The gods fell silent, knowing his humor was only another form of wrath. He gave her to Hephaestus, the crippled god of the forge, the one mocked behind his back, the one no goddess ever chose. The halls of Olympus echoed with laughter at the announcement. Aphrodite laughed too, a soft, dangerous laugh, but Hephaestus never smiled. His silence was heavier than her beauty, a reminder of wounds that no charm could heal. His pride was ash before the wedding torch even burned. To Aphrodite, vows were threads easily broken, useful only until passion pulled her elsewhere. She wore devotion like a costume, casting it aside when it no longer pleased her. Aphrodite slipped from her husband's halls as easily as mist slips from mountains. She chose lovers without shame, gods and mortals alike, and her bed became the most coveted place in all creation. Ares came first, her true passion, the god of war, her perfect opposite and perfect match. Where she brought softness, he brought steel. Where she brought desire, he brought blood. Together they burned, not in tenderness but in violence, lust roaring through them like fire through dry grass. Hephaestus caught them, bodies entwined, and trapped them in nets of unbreakable iron. Dragged before Olympus, naked and exposed, mocked and ridiculed, the gods howled with laughter. But Aphrodite did not flinch. She did not blush. Shame slid off her skin like water. She remained untouchable, and in the end it was Hephaestus who looked smaller, bitter, humiliated, while Aphrodite rose from the scandal untouched. Her children spread her influence even further. Eros, winged boy with a bow, loosed arrows that twisted the hearts of gods and mortals alike, turning sense into madness. Harmonia, child of love and war, carried cursed gifts that brought ruin to every hand that touched them. From Aphrodite came lines of beauty and doom, each child another ripple of her power across time. Every kiss she gave was a prophecy, every embrace a battlefield, every child a monument to her unstoppable reach. Mortals built her temples of marble and gold in Cyprus, Corinth, and far beyond. They offered incense and blood, hoping beauty and desire might favor their lives. To them, she was blessing and curse alike, a goddess who could raise kingdoms with love or ruin them with jealousy. Priestesses whispered that the body was sacred, that sex was worship, that pleasure itself was a prayer. Men and women alike bent the knee to her altars, because who could resist offering themselves to the goddess who ruled their hearts whether they wanted it or not? But Aphrodite was no gentle muse. She was not a soft hand stroking a cheek. She was a command you obeyed without question, because to resist was to break yourself. She decided who would rise, who would fall, who would crumble beneath longing. Kings begged for her favor, warriors prayed for her gaze, and poets cursed her name in the same breath. Her power was not in armies or thrones, but in the fire that made men slaves to their own hearts. Helen of Troy was her gift to Paris, beauty weaponized into catastrophe, a face that launched 1,000 ships. A war erupted from that single act of favor, and men died in the dust, far from home, for the games of a goddess. Cities burned, empires fell, families shattered, and still Aphrodite smiled. She favored who she wished. Anchises, a mortal shepherd, found himself chosen, and though he trembled with fear, he could not refuse her. From that brief moment came Aeneas, destined to found Rome, an empire carried in the veins of a goddess's child. Even the greatest civilizations traced their roots back to her shadow. Yet Aphrodite was not only beauty, she was cunning in silk, strategy behind a smile, a dagger hidden behind a kiss. She humbled warriors who thought themselves untouchable, broke kings who thought themselves unbending, and undid kingdoms with glances. Even Zeus, high and mighty, feared her power, for thunderbolts could not guard against longing, and order itself could collapse beneath desire. Her dominion had no sword, no armor, no shield, and yet it was the strongest force in the cosmos. And always she reminded the world, what is love if not war in disguise? But her gifts cut deep. Adonis, mortal youth too perfect to live, became her obsession. He died in her arms, gored by a wild boar, blood pouring into the soil. Her tears fell and from them flowers bloomed, life sprouting from grief, beauty again born from pain. Love, forever tangled with death. Even Aphrodite could not escape that truth. She could seduce kings, but she could not preserve her lover. Desire gave her victory, yet time and fate remained beyond her reach. Even gods cannot bind death, and her beauty could not shield him from its shadow. What she conquered in passion, she lost to eternity. She could sway empires, but she could not shield him from fate. Rome gave her a new name, Venus. They carved her body into marble, perfect curves immortalized in stone. They painted her rising from the sea. They sang of her lips, her laughter, her gaze. But none of them captured her danger, because Aphrodite was never safe, never gentle. She was inevitable. A whisper in every affair, a pulse in every heart, a shadow behind every kiss. She was the gift and the curse, the promise and the punishment, the dream and the destruction. Even now her name lingers, in perfume bottles, in paintings, in fashion, in film, in love songs whispered into the dark. All of it mere shadows of the same goddess. The world still kneels, not before kings, not before generals, but before beauty, before desire, before love. Aphrodite never died. She never will. As long as hearts betray reason, as long as longing overpowers logic, as long as beauty brings men to ruin, she will remain. She is every obsession, every temptation, every late-night thought that claws at sanity. She is the goddess who doesn't fade, because her altar is not in temples of stone, it is in every human heart, and that temple will never fall. Please subscribe and stay with us. History is alive, it is bright with stories, and filled with voices that still inspire. Thank you for watching.